Hello, everybody. Greetings to all. Welcome to the Snooker Hall podcast. I'm Dan Murren. The 2026 Shanghai Masters is in the books. Congratulations to Judd Trump on winning his second title in Shanghai. He picked up a very nice payday for himself. And okay, the tournament doesn't carry ranking points, but he has laid down a marker for the rest of the tour, beating Barry Hawkins, John Higgins, the reigning world champion Wu Yize, and then Kyron Wilson in the final. He definitely had to do it the hard way. But the focus of today's episode is not the action in Shanghai. We have a very special guest with us today on the Snooker Hall podcast. Although she is not a professional player, she is regularly on our screens during some of the most high-profile matches on the tour. In 2024, she refereed her first major final, surely the first of many. I'm very happy to welcome Tatiana Woollaston to the Snooker Hall podcast. How are you?
Very well. Thank you for having me, Dan. Looking forward to a chat.
So am I. So am I. What have you been up to? Well, it's August now, so summer is still here, really.
Yeah,
But have you had a busy start because you got
yeah,
some
so
time off over the summer? Or?
yeah, we do get a time off. Obviously, my last event was the World Championship finished early May, and then we have kind of a break. And I've just finished refereeing sort of my first event of the season, which was the qualifiers in Leicester. Yeah, and it's just obviously the children are off school, so it's a busy life, and then I've got my normal work. But yeah, just been really I'm still waiting for my snooker season to sort of to kick in, to sort of to start. But the qualifiers was a great start. You sort of got getting back to it.
And that's not that far for you to travel, is that right?
That's not far at all, though. So I'm very
Get in.
local. I'm just sort of outside Leicester City. Takes about 20 minutes to get in, so I can stay in my own bed after finishing reffing late at night, which is always a bonus.
And speaking of Leicester City, are you into other sports? Leicester's a pretty
Uh,
big sporting city with rugby and, well, snooker, and obviously football has not been so good recently, but are you
no,
into?
I do. To be fair, I love all sports, and I do say to Ben that he's the luckiest man alive because he found a lady that actually likes sport, and we watch all the sports together. We watched World Cup. I enjoy a bit of rugby. Our son is into his cricket, and we go and watch cricket together. We go golf. We've been to the Open several times, and yeah, I love the sport. I love darts. Yeah, so I'm a big sports fan.
Have you been to Ali Pali for the darts?
We haven't been to Ali Pali for the darts, only been to Ali Pali for the Masters, but it's definitely on the bucket list.
I'd like to go actually. I've never been for the darts. Yeah, for the Masters, yeah, of course, but there is the Nordic Masters in Copenhagen darts, and they
Darts, okay.
usually get a lot of the top names there. But my God, trying to get tickets for it is it's hard. It sells out within minutes.
We're lucky to
So
have obviously darts in Leicester as well, in the same Morningside Arena where we've got snooker. So Ben and the boys, they've seen Luke Littler play, and great atmosphere, and yeah. But Ali Pali, yeah, should definitely try and go.
yeah, no, I've always been curious about that idea that having the Masters follow the Darts World Championship causes all the wasps to hang around because of all the sticky beer on the floor. I don't know if I really believe it, but there's got to be a reason why there are so many wasps around in
I
in
think it's just
January.
too bright, too much lighting causes heat, and they wake up. It's not about the sticky floor. But it comes as a part of the job, I guess, dealing with wasps.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. So who was it? I think it was.
Ben Williams. Ben Williams. I think probably you think about the same story when he tried to pick up a wasp with the glove off the table, and it stung him through the glove.
No, I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And there was another funny one with the wasps. I think it was Desislav, a referee in Judd in the Masters, and he just sort of, got down to play his shot, and the wasps climbed under his waistcoat. And she was trying to tell him, Judd, you need to get up, you need to get up. But he just looked awkward when she tried to like wave her hand around his waistcoat to get the wasps out. Yeah, so there were a few funny stories.
Oh my god! Ugh. No, I'm not a creepy crawly
But
guy.
now I'll tell you about the wasps. So this year during musters, we actually were sort of preparing for the situation if the wasps appears. So we had always an empty glass and a piece of paper just on the side of the set. We luckily didn't have to use it, but we're like, we ain't picking this up with bare hands because we don't want to be stunk. You
No,
know, Ben Williams learned the hard way. So we always had it ready.
because I'm pretty sure Jan Has got a little bit of stick because he just squashed. I don't think it was a wasp. I think it was a fly of some sort, and he just squashed it with his hand. And I thought, oh,
I
that's cool.
yeah, I had the same. So this year there was whatever flying creature, but not a wasp. So I wasn't afraid of picking it up with my like in my gloves. So I picked it up and I was like, I can't, as much as I want, I can't squash it because all the cameramen they have a habit of like following you like that, like watching what you do. And there was a lady, security lady, so I was like, can you just like, and because I know I've got microphone, so I was like, can you just take it outside, please? And I like gave it to her. I'm sure it just potentially got squashed. I don't know if she actually took it outside, but I
But it
needed
wasn't
to
you
like,
who did it.
that wasn't me.
If it
So
did happen, yeah,
here you go.
yeah. No, there's no need. Glass and a piece of paper will do the job. Yeah,
Yeah.
no need to harm the wildlife. Yeah, the but the Masters. So Ali Pali, it's got a good reputation at the moment. I've been a number of times now to the arena to watch some snooker. I gotta say, it's not the Crucible. Like it's good, but it's not the Crucible. I mean, is it?
Um,
What do you think of it?
I it's an interesting one because obviously it's a big event. It's important. People say obviously it's the second biggest event after the World Championship, and the London crowd is really loud. It's a huge capacity venue. However, because it's so big, I always feel that the people are so far away, and the set is huge. So sometimes it feels like it's just you and the players because how far the people are. Yes, then obviously when something exciting happens or someone misses an important ball and all these oohs and ahs come in, it's really loud. It sort of kind of wakes you up. But I think that crowd being further away does make it slightly easier for us as the referees because you don't feel like they're sort of on top of you. So yeah, it's an interesting one. It's amazing to referee. It's an amazing reception for the players. It's really, really loud. But when you're in the swing of match and it's really quiet, you don't feel like people are there. Don't know if I'm explaining myself right, but yeah, it's an interesting one.
Because the Crucible has that feel. Well, I know they use it's kind of a cliche now, and but it's used a lot in football, where the fans create a cauldron atmosphere. It was always used about English teams having to go to Istanbul in the Champions League, and Atletico Madrid. I heard, it's a cauldron atmosphere. The fans make it hostile. Maybe, but snooker fans are not really hostile, are they? But it's just because they're so close at the Crucible, you can kind of hear if someone's breathing heavily. You can
You do.
probably hear it over your shoulder, whereas at the Masters you won't.
You won't.
And
Yeah.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. It's a. I suppose that makes a difference for the players, but it also makes a difference for you as well, though, because
It does.
yeah,
With the Crucible, you do feel like you potentially scrutinized more because how close the people are. Um, you stand so close with your back to people, as you say, you can hear them breathe, and you're very conscious of every move of the audience because you want them, to stay still, not to like lean to get their drink, not to whisper to each other, and it's like that takes your concentration as well. While the masters potentially, yes, you pay attention to the crowd, but just maybe so they need to be quieter, but not so much to the movement because it's not in eye line because they're further away. While in the Crucible, sometimes they move around or talk to each other, and because they're so close. And you also feel there is something something important happening, it's like there's a lot more weight on your decisions because like they're there and those eyes are right on the table, they can see it all. So it's completely different pressure. I remember walking out to referee my first World Championship semi-final, and even though you do have a lot more space when it's one table, I myself, I could not breathe. I thought like it's so dead quiet and I'm the only one who speak. I'm the one that announces the player to break off.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
announce the score, and all 900, how many of them see it, it's dead quiet. And that, when they say you can hear a pin drop, that's exactly that. And it took me a good frame or two to actually sort of start to relax and feel better. But you can feel it in the air. It's incredible. And I think that's what players say, that they're so glad that it's obviously staying because that intimacy, you just can't replicate it. There is no other venue.
I didn't think of it like that actually. So Rob Walker usually does the introductions at the
Yes.
start of the session, and he's not a shy man. Like, he's charismatic, he's energetic, he tries to get the crowd pumped. Fantastic. But then it's kind of, okay, you're all pumped, but then you kind of need to be quiet as well. But then your voice, or whoever is refereeing at the time, is pretty much the only
That's
voice,
and the
apart from a
balls.
good morning or something like that. But
Yeah.
that's all you'll hear. Your
And
voice will dominate the arena.
yeah. And a lot of the time, yes, you'll get a clap or you've got, like a cheer when it's 100, but until then, it's the potting of the balls and they're just you and they're dead quiet, and this is pressure because all eyes. I mean, we are not important, to be fair. It's all eyes on the players, and they play for a lot of money. But there are instances when decisions, lie with us, and they can make a difference. And that's how you then sort of act under pressure.
Do you know what? Speaking of pressure, there's two things you said there, and it reminds me of something I saw. It's about, you said that the referee isn't important, the players, and I get it. People pay to go and see the players.
Yeah.
Fine, but I remember it was the final of the English Open 2024. Neil Robertson, Ruizer, and Marcel Eckhart was the referee on the day. And to be honest, he didn't really have to do a lot of officiating because the breaks were just flying in. He just had to call the frames and say, okay, frame to Ruizer, frame to Neil Robertson. I'm no expert, but I would assume it's one of the easier matches, and definitely one of the easier finals that he would have had to officiate. But when Neil Robertson finally gets over the line, 9-7, they do the handshake with each other, and on that occasion, Neil hugged Wuizer, which I thought was a really nice moment, by the way. But they both offer Marcel a handshake, but then Marcel retires, and when the trophy presentation is happening, the media and the press and the cameramen, they flood towards the black ball end of the table, and I saw Marcel just standing behind them, just sort of looking, and I thought, well, I don't know. Not that I felt it was a lonely position for him, but now that the match is over, it kind of felt that he'd been forgotten about. But
You know what?
okay,
You saying about this, what interesting. Let's take it closer than 2024. This year's final, world final. Rob Spencer refereeing. Obviously amazing. We got a deciding frame, and when it's basically over, all of us were already standing at the new seating area. The what do they call it? Legend Walk. So we were
Legends
like
Walk, yeah.
media people from the office. We were all standing there. And then so the players literally just shaking hands, and Rob Spencer, there is like a little pathway where we leave the arena, and he's walking off, and I'm standing there, and I was like, Rob, I was shaking him, going, that was amazing, like look at that final, like you've got to decide. I was like, and that's it. He's so like, I think he's just relieved it's over, because what people don't understand and what is so hard about the finals, because they're multiple session matches, and we put ourselves together and we start concentrating, from the first ball till the last frame of that session. As soon as that session's over, you go, like weight off your shoulders, you've not done any mistakes, it's gone well, it's gone smooth, but then you have to pick yourself up again and go again and for the world final it's 4 sessions in a row. So I think in his head he was just like relieved this is done, and I was on such a buzz. I was like, Rob, you like, and it was like tapping him on the shoulder and everything. And I think obviously later on he realized what an amazing final, but at that point of time I think, and same probably for Marcel, it's just like, that's it, I've done my job, it's gone well, and it's all about the players, and we don't mind just stepping away and kind of digesting it later ourselves. So it's not a lonely thing, it's kind of you glad you've done a good job.
Well, yeah, yeah. And do you know what? Actually, that leads me to one of the questions that someone sent in. I think that's a good opportunity to ask you this question, and it comes from, speaking of eyes being on you and pressure. This is from Sally Curran. Hi, Tatiana. I always love seeing you on the telly. You are always calm and elegant. Is it nerve-wracking having to stand in the arena as the players are introduced? Also, how difficult is it to replace multiple balls after a foul? What is the worst reset you have had to do in a match? Has a player ever had mercy on you and decided to play on from a worse situation? I guess, I mean, I'll just add my own little bit onto that question, if you don't mind, Sally. Replacing multiple balls after a foul, okay, it's easier now than it used to be, but when you're in the Crucible one table setup, maybe we could add that context in there.
Starting with the pressure, I think we always say as a referees that once you stop feeling butterflies, you probably should be refereeing. Like every time I walk out to that table to referee, I've got butterflies and I feel pressure. But it kind of settles down and you go into your routine after like a frame or so. But you should feel it because it makes you concentrate, it makes you focus, and then once you start losing this, it's probably time to sort of pack it in. So yeah, we do feel pressure walking out, and obviously live cameras, players play for a lot of money, live audience, so there are a lot of factors that plays to it. With regards to replacing the balls, as you said, it's a lot easier these days to replace multiple balls with the video replay system. However, I would be I'm quite sort of hush on myself, and if it's only a cue ball moved, I should know it 10 out of 10 where it was, and I should not rely on the cameras. I should always try to do it myself to save time. Players don't like all the long-winded, putting back, like, can you please bring it up? Can you please direct me? So, I try and, remember as much as possible myself. And then most of the times players will agree where you put it, because even if it's like millimeters different, it sometimes doesn't make any difference to a shot. So as long as it saves time, we put it back, we carry on. The worst one I've had, when obviously I could not have done it without the replay, it was actually Musters, I think, 2024, I don't remember the year. It was Mark Selby and Hussein Vafai. And Hussein, so there were a couple reds at the bottom of the table, but the cue ball sort of in the middle of the ball cushion, the yellow, the brown, they're kind of all sort of in line, but there is like a gap, and there is like blue on the spot, pink a little bit off the spot, and for whatever reason he decides to play through the gap, and straight away, and the yellow brown not on the spots, mind you, they're just in line in bulk somewhere, like in front of cue ball, and he hits the yellow straight away, cue ball hits the brown, brown hits the blue, blue hits the pink, pink hits the red. So all these balls move. However, despite so, I think like so yellow, brown, blue, pink, red, so there and cue ball, 6 balls moved. I knew only one red moved, so I knew which red moved. I knew the pink was just off the spot. I knew the blue was on the spot. I knew where the cue ball was, but I did need the help with yellow and brown. So even that amount of balls, in my head, I kind of like predicting that it might happen. So with your eyes, you quickly scan and try to remember what was on the spots, what's not. And then Olivier Martel was my marker, and we put it back pretty quickly, to be fair. It was maybe like a minute and a half for all the balls. But it was really funny because Mark, when she said the players had mercy on you, so Mark Selby, when Hussein played a shot and saw where the cue ball landed, he went like that. He closed his face in his hands, and he started laughing because he knew there is no red for him to go up at. If it was, I'm sure he would, because and he was just looking at me and even went to the table, and I knew he's going to put it back, but he went to the table. He tried because he felt sorry.
He tried to be nice, but
He
yeah.
tried to be nice, and I said to him, "Go on, Mark, just tell me."
Just tell me the bad news.
Just tell me the bad news, yeah. And the cameras, and I watched this many times because I think it made articles in newspapers and everything, and they said that Hussein is not getting a Christmas card from me next year. Yeah, he says just put it back, and we've done it. I mean, it's part of the job.
Yeah.
So that's obviously on TV matches, you do have this help of the marker and the video replay, but that's why I think the qualifiers are such a good training ground for the referees, because you don't have that. So if that situation would have happened at the qualifiers, you can only rely on yourself, on the players. And that's why it's so important to concentrate and try to predict when the miss potentially can happen, because it's not always in the snooker situation when the players miss. You know yourself, like Mark Allen likes to play thin clips of the red.
Yep.
Likes to roll it up off the cushion to the pack of the reds, and sometimes there are open balls and they miss. So you have to be prepared, and those qualifiers are so good for it. And then if you get into that habit to know where the cue ball is at all times and remembering, then it makes it easier on TV, and then you don't always try to rely on replay and you do it yourself. This year, the World Championship, there was some technical issue, and my marker couldn't bring up a replay machine, and that was the deciding frame of Sean Murphy and Fan Jani. And obviously we're standing there, and Sean is, I'm not sure. He likes to check, to be fair. There are a few players that rely on replay. They sometimes ask it to bring it up regardless of where you put it, which is fine. And it didn't work, and it was like time was ticking us. And I said, Sean, I'm pretty confident that's where it was. And because they trust you and they respect you, and they just sort of go along with it, and agree, and game carries on. So yeah, it's really, really important to in those matches when you're away from TV, to practice and always sort of remember where the cue ball is.
But in that situation, Sean felt comfortable trusting you because you're not a rookie referee and you've kind of earned your stripes. But if this were your second match ever, then he might be a little bit more wary and, okay, look, she's never, I've always been all right with her in the past. Like, what's the problem? Yeah. So I suppose that's where experience comes in, I guess.
Yeah, but that's where it starts. I mean, yes, he might think, oh, you're a rookie referee, let's test you. And then when the marker brings it up, it's correct. He's like, oh, okay. And then it goes well for you for the future. But yeah, obviously you have to earn the player's trust.
And I suppose that same for Mark Selby's situation that you mentioned. That's not something, again, this is why I like speaking with people from all parts of the game, journalists, coaches, referees, commentators, whoever it may be, because there are things that I will not have thought about, and this is one of them. So in that situation, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like maybe Hussein would have been better off taking another shot choice in that moment. But you weren't expecting him to take that shot, so maybe last minute you have to quickly change. Oh my God, he's going that way. So you have to quickly, you kind of have to react literally in a second or two.
To be fair, because he was in a difficult situation regardless, so whichever route he would expect it to play, experienced referees would assess the situation and try to remember as much as possible. But yeah, sometimes actually commentary did expect him to play off the cushion into the particular red. They didn't expect him to play through the gap, and maybe in the last second I glanced on the blue and the pink, thinking about it. But yeah, it's excitement to our job.
And I guess speaking of trust, that goes both ways. So when you're replacing the balls and for example, player X will say, I think I was a little bit further away from that ball or something. There is that element of trust. And I think snooker's generally pretty good for that. Players are
I
mostly
have
trustworthy.
Yeah, they are definitely trustworthy, definitely. So, if, for example, what also is good for referees to, for the upcoming referees, it's good to be honest with the player. Like, sorry, I lost it. You have to help me. There are instances where rather than pretend and put it behind the wrong color, just say, I'm sorry, can you help me? I've lost it, which is fine. And they will point, you put it, carry on. But also, I have an interesting opinion on this question is sometimes players, when they try to escape the snooker, they look at like they have in their head a particular escape they want to try, but they don't necessarily look so long and hard at where the cue ball is how we do. So I of opinion that many times we actually know more precise than the player does, because they say, "Oh, I think it was closer to the color, for example," and I know because that's maybe one of the first things I look at, the distance between the balls, and because they're trying to make it more difficult for themselves. They don't want it to be seen that they're making it easier, and a lot of it like players think, "Oh, if it was there, why did I miss it? It was actually quite easy to hit." But they're trying to make it harder, kind of like not an excuse for why they missed it first time, but also it's like for the opponent not to think that they're trying to cheat. So and a lot of players will accept my opinion, like when I say no, I think this is right, and they're like, yeah, fine, I didn't. Sometimes they even say, oh, I didn't actually look, or but most other times when they say, oh, it's a bit to the a bit to the left, a bit to the right, we just go with the player because they're really, really trustworthy and they won't try to gain advantage in this.
And in modern times, any kind of attempt to cheat will be flagged. Someone will notice it.
Yes,
Somebody will notice it, and the
exactly.
bad press they'll get, it's just not worth it, is it? It's
No, no. And players know this.
And speaking of cheating, an incident came up. It was in the qualifiers for the World Championship, and Liam Pullen was playing, and he basically said to the referee, "I think my opponent has just played a deliberate foul."
Okay.
But the response was, "Well, I can't prove it. Maybe it was a genuine mistake." But at what point is that up to you? Do you have a discretion where it's clear that someone has not played the shot properly, and they've
It's an easy way to cover this. There is no such thing as a deliberate foul in the rule book. So there is no deliberate foul in the rule book because you can't prove it. So
okay.
So, for example, I mean, I don't know, but I guarantee 90% of the tour players at some point played off the pack enough in the black pocket because they didn't have a path back to the bulk. So they're thinking, I would rather give 4 points away than leave them in amongst the balls. That's, in theory, it's a deliberate foul because they're actually planning to go off. But there is no such thing as a deliberate foul. They hit the red, it's a legal shot, obviously they went off, foul 4 points. So because it's open to interpretation, it can't be included in the rules. As you say, you cannot prove it. It might be played a bad shot. What we do have in the rule book is, they have to make a genuine attempt to hit a ball on. So, for example, if the player is snookered, but they know they're already, it's a snooker required stage that miss can't be called, they can play just sort of like away from the snookering ball, just not to leave a free ball, but not actually attempt just to hit a ball on. And then it's in our power to call a miss and put them back, regardless of the score difference, because you can see that he's not tried to hit the ball on. He didn't play with sufficient pace. He played in the wrong direction. So that can be explained. But so that is in the rules. But there is no such thing as a deliberate foul, because it's tactics in the end of the day.
Okay, so if somebody deliberately just hits the cue ball straight into the pocket,
I mean, if
but
he's
you
not,
can't prove it, though, can you?
no, but then it's a miss. If he didn't hit the ball on, it's a miss, and I couldn't put it back. But if he on the way hit the red, what he should have done, and then went off, it's a foul.
No, Leo Scullion reminded me of there's a little part of the rule which people seem to forget. It's the player must, to the best of their ability, and
to
that's a
ex-
key phrase that some people do forget. The best
yeah.
of their ability. Like if it's almost impossible to hit and they've made a genuine attempt, maybe you won't call the miss. But no, no, because it has come up a few times recently.
And I think
And
people, I think when you know, I've had this conversation with Ben at home as well, and when I said to him there is no such thing as deliberate foul in the rule book, he was like, "What?" So I think a lot of people.
so you had to
Yeah,
explain the rules to him.
I do, and I think he's probably not the only one.
And I think, well, that's a good example. So the mutual trust that goes both ways. And I'm a big fan of segues. So I'm going to lead that into another listener question. And this is from Bhavesh. Hi, Tatiana. I'm a big fan. In a world which is still improving in terms of equal opportunity in sport, do you feel you had to do more to prove yourself than some of the male referees? I think most people don't care if you are a man or a woman, but that you do the job well. Was it difficult to get a break? And I've got to say, I'm a little bit disappointed that Bhavesh didn't note the pun there, to get a break. I just thought that's a pun definitely intended, but he did mention it, so we'll give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, this is the question that we are regularly asked. As there are, there are a lot of female referees on the tour these days, and this is not seen as anything. It's not new to people. People are used to it, and it's probably discussed less than it used to be, but we still get asked this question. Back in the day, obviously, we had Michaela Tab, and she was the one that kind of opened doors to other girls. And I do think that we were given an opportunity at the start of our careers because we were female and they wanted to attract more women into the sport. So as a starting point, that potentially was a factor. Like they wanted more women to have a go, to referee, given the success of Michaela Tab. However, once we were given this opportunity, it was up to us to prove that we are good enough. And if you were given those chances to referee, but you've not improved and you're not refereeing to the standards expected, we wouldn't be there now. So it didn't matter you man or a woman, you had to do a good job. And then once you're doing a good job, no one actually cares. As Bhavesh said, no one cares if you're male or female, as long as you do your job correctly. But also, it's like, I can't deny that it still has impact on people, that they are seeing sort of women in snooker, either it's refereeing or playing these days. Just recently, during the World Championship this year, I was setting up the table before the start of the session, and there was a lady standing by the set, and she called me over, and it was incredible. She just said, "Can I just say what a massive impact you've had on me?" He said, "Just to see a strong female presence on the big stage, it's so empowering. You're such a great example for the young girls, and I absolutely, I love watching snooker because of this." And I didn't realize that it can have such impact on people. I've not had so many conversations with women like this before, and made me quite emotional. How much we try to deny, there is no difference between male and female, it still has some impact on people. There was also a little girl with mum come up and said she only loves to watch snooker and she loves watching you. It is such a great example. So this is still important to me, but as the job concerns, there's literally no difference. If you're good enough, you'll be given the chance, and you can progress and you can succeed. You just need to work hard. So yeah.
So getting your foot in the door, maybe there was an opportunity, but if you were not good enough, or if you weren't trying hard enough or working hard enough or progressing well enough, then somebody would kick you out of the room. So
Absolutely.
getting in is one thing, but staying there is another. I
Staying there
guess
is
is
another, yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But I suppose that's the same as any
I guess it's the
aspect of life,
same.
isn't it? Yeah, it's
Yeah. You know,
yeah.
so for me, you know, when with the snooker, obviously, male-dominated sport, they had to be the first one. You know, lucky for us as Michaela, she's done really good job. She was popular with people. She was, you know, well respected by the players, and that opened the doors to us girls. And that, you know, we were given that chance because we're women and they wanted more presence. Um, but then, yes, as I said, it's if you're not good enough, you wouldn't have stayed on a tour.
And speaking of being good enough, do you play?
That people should ask me this, and then they get surprised when I say no, I don't. I don't play, and maybe this is why it probably taken me even harder, sort of, to get to where I am because I had to learn the games from just refereeing. You know, like where if you play yourself, you kind of can anticipate maybe where what the next shot the player's going to play, where they're going to go. But because I've never played, it was all from watching on the TV. And you know, hours and hours and hours. Me and my dad, we watched it all the time. We loved it. And then it's from constantly refereeing and learning about the game. So no, I don't play. I can. So I say I can. My favorite part is a straight pink. I sometimes sit up in the club when we go straight pink. I can put that, and my highest break is 13 pink and black. So here you go.
Okay, okay. It's not the worst that's been on the Snooker podcast. It's not the best though. No, it's not the best. In terms of
But
the
I'm not.
non-pro
I've not even
players.
tried to improve it over the years. I mean, I've just accepted that I can't play.
So if Ben is practicing, do you ever, like, are you ever there ever, or
No, I think we keep it separate. It's his job. He goes and practice on his own. I'm never there.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh no, no, I was just curious to see if even what, because I guess like watching like a pro play, you've got to learn something. But if you're not actually practicing what you see, then yeah, you can't improve. Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. No, that's
Yeah, I think
still.
I've obviously I've learned the game from watching and then just refereeing over the years, many hours.
And watching is the key word there.
Okay.
So I'm not. I really should know this, but this year at the World Championship, I was only there for the final. So it was the one table setup. But was it this year? Was it at the Crucible where the markers were in a different position? They were up higher in the Crucible.
Both Masters and the World Championship we were
Okay,
high.
so okay, I've got to ask. Like, it must be so tempting just to look where you always look, but then this time you can't.
Yeah, so it's slightly different. So obviously Masters was really far away and high up. It felt quite lonely out there. We were far away, and I was really worried about it because you know with it being my final, as a referee, we always look for that eye contact with the marker because it's like a support. It's because the marker knows what you're going through, and they can sort of with their eyes to show you, for example, if there is a bit of noise in the crowd, etc. So I was really worried. However, with the modern technology, we did have an earpiece, and it works really well. We were able to not to bring attention to anything, but tell the referee on the earpiece, you know, something that is needed even during the live frame, and no one would know about it. So that worked. And at the Crucible also we were in a different location, and actually we could see the table potentially better than from the old position, even though old position was closer but it was lower, and you always have a cameraman in front of you, so you can't actually see the table, so you look at the screen a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But in the Crucible we sat higher and we saw all the lengths of the table. It was really good view. And then obviously the communication works well. The referee can speak to us into their mic. We can speak to them to the earpiece. Yeah, and it actually I think it worked well. It's
I'm
new, and obviously everything new comes with resistance, and you're like, oh, but I want, you know, like I want them in front of me as I always did. But actually, yeah, it was fine.
I think this elevated view, whenever I've tried it a couple of times recently. One of them was at Ali Pali, sitting in the front row. And okay, it's still good, but I don't know, sitting in row 7, row 8, row 9, that's even better because you can
Yes.
genuinely see everything that's going on the table. If I'm at football, I used to go to a lot of hockey games. It's better when you're at an elevated vantage point is better. And I guess it goes not just as a fan, but for when you're officiating the match, it
Yeah.
gives you an advantage, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So it's worked for us.
I have a question here from Brian Campbell. Hi, Dan. Does Tatiana have a favorite town or city to visit during the tour? Perhaps because of sightseeing reasons, favorite restaurants, or things to do when there is a bit of free time? Or is being a ref on tour a bit like being in a rock band where you aren't seeing much except the hotel and the venue?
Um, it obviously depends on events sometimes when it's like when it qualifies and you do referee maybe 2 out of 3 sessions and they're really like long days. It's a lot of the times it's back to hotel, have a rest because we get really tired. But on the like televised events when there is potentially 2 sessions only, we do have a bit more time and we do like to sort of get out and about. And it's a very easy question for me to answer. It has to be York. Um,
I did suspect you might say that, yeah.
Is honestly, I think it's a combination of things. York is the most wonderful city any time of the year you go and visit, but just before Christmas, it doesn't get any better. You know, I absolutely love going for a walk, having a little mulled wine, get a few presents. It's just the atmosphere is amazing, and you know, people are cheerful and happy ahead of Christmas, and you know, the shambles, the cutest streets. I love it. I love it. I think yeah, York is wonderful.
Now, people speak really highly of the Christmas markets, as you say. So the wine, the what are they called? The mince pies. I'm not a fan
Me,
of those personally, but do you like them?
no, no, you can't pay me money to have one.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah, we agree on that. No, not. But that moment you mentioned at the Crucible about someone said that it's actually quite nice. You know, it had an impact on them to see you in a position like that. If you wouldn't mind, just explain a little bit more about that. So you're in a position where you're responsible for the success of a match, really,
Mm.
and that's you could say it's a lot of responsibility because there are people's careers, people's livelihoods, people's legacies on the line. And if you or another referee does a poor job on the day, yeah, it can have an impact. But I guess you're there because I don't know, it goes back to the same thing though, because you've earned over the years, you've earned the right to be there. So you're in the arena for the high profile matches.
Yeah.
And the example I always come back to on this podcast is Coco Gauff. And she said that she was inspired by seeing Serena Williams play
Mhm.
tennis. And these are her words. She saw someone who looked like her,
Yeah.
and then she went on and she became a tennis player. She's now rich beyond her wildest dreams. She's super successful and she's achieved great things in tennis.
Uh,
But that wouldn't have happened if she hadn't seen Serena Williams doing the same thing. So it's kind of I guess, legacy, really, or it's just paving the way. But I guess for you said it was Michaela Tab who.
yeah, I think it obviously yeah it was Michaela Tapp as a for me as an example of you know of seeing what can be achieved, what you know if you work hard. So yeah, she was definitely an inspiration, and I was lucky enough. Our paths didn't really cross over for a long time on the professional tour. I think we only worked together for her last year on tour, but I've been lucky enough to work with Michaela on the seniors tour, and yeah, she's absolutely wonderful. She's um, so approachable, so cheerful, so chatty, and you can see why she was loved by so many when she was on the tour. So she was definitely my inspiration. But going back to the story, the Crucible, with that lady approaching me, it, it was something that I probably not realized myself that it could happen, that it could affect someone. And I think she was saying, and for her seeing me, you know, so calm and sort of like collected during those matches and making those decisions and being like respected by the players, it's all sort of just an inspiration to see like what as a woman we can achieve in kind of quite male environment. But yeah, as I said, for me it was new as well. I've not had. It might be happening more, which I just don't realize. It probably is. So we can't deny that fact that having that female presence having a positive impact on others.
You know what? Positivity is not as common in the world as we would like it to be. And I think ending on a positive note with people being inspired is a good way to wrap up this podcast. Tatiana, I want to say thank you for your insight. Thank you for taking the time to chat. I appreciate it. I really do. And you're always welcome back on the Snooker Hall podcast. When are you next reffing?
My next reffing is, I'm a bit busy with work, with my normal job. So next one is not until September, the qualifiers, and then we go into Belfast for Northern Ireland, and then it's York for the UK Championship. So that's
your favourite, yeah. Well, I'm going to Belfast, actually. I'll be at the final at the waterfront. Really looking, it'll be my first visit to, well, not just to the arena, but to Belfast, actually. So I'm really looking forward to that.
That will be my close second after York.
The waterfront.
Waterfront is fantastic, and I'm there. I'm there for the week, so come and say hello.
Oh, absolutely will. Absolutely will. Once again, really, thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll see you soon enough.
Yeah, thank you.
A big thank you to Tatiana Woollaston for joining me on the Snooker Hall podcast. A wonderful guest, great insight, and a fantastic person. More importantly, though, thank you to everyone who has been listening to the podcast. The guests will keep coming. You can expect a guest appearance from the creator of the X Twitter account, Mark Williams Tweets Explained. We'll chat about a number of issues concerning the sport, including the role of social media. Really looking forward to chatting with Harvey. The next tournament on the Pro Tour is the long-awaited return of the China Open. Massive event with such a huge legacy and reputation. David Caulfield from Snooker HQ will return to the Snooker Hall podcast to review and analyze that tournament. I always like chatting with David. He's got great opinions. He thinks about the sport in such a logical way. And of course, the tournament promises to be a cracker. If you could take just a moment and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, I would really be grateful, and it will help fellow snooker fans find out about this show. If you want to get in touch, share an unpopular opinion, a strange story, or anything like that, the email address is contactus@thesnookerhall.com. And of course, you can follow the Snooker Hall podcast on X, Blue Sky, and Instagram. Thank you for listening. I think we should savor the fallow week, because soon enough the snooker is going to come thick and fast. Enjoy the sunshine while you can, and until the next episode, take care.